practitioner with Providence Elder Place. Okay, I'm a nurse practitioner with Providence Elder Place and palliative care. I've been a nurse practitioner since 1993, so I've been around for a while. Graduated from the University of Missouri. I lived in Duluth, Minnesota for many years. I worked for Essentia in Duluth, Minnesota. I've worked psychiatry, geriatrics. I'm actually a geriatric nurse practitioner, a family nurse practitioner. I've worked psychiatry, geriatrics, addictions, sort of much the gamut. I was a traveling nurse practitioner for 5 years, and then Providence sort of scooped me up. So I'm here I am.
My name is Oscar Nelson, co-founder, co-owner of Sweet Relief and Astoria Indoor Garden Supply. I came to cannabis on the medical side, having several family members pass away from cancer, and seeing in my perception that it was the cancer medication that ended up being the determining factor, which really pissed me off, being that we trusted this institution, and through a lot of years I've kind of worked towards having options with cannabis and learning more about the cancer side, but been learning about this plant and its effects since about 2008.
One other thing is you work with pets, right? Pets, some questions about that too. So at this time we can just field some questions about cannabis. If you have any questions you haven't had asked, one of the things that I remember, first time ever hearing about it, when you go into a cannabis shop, it's going to be a little bit different experience. And can you talk about that just a little bit? What that might be like?
So like anything new, a trip to a cannabis dispensary is going to be a little bit different than any other retail purchase. At Sweet Relief, which may be different than some other dispensaries, it's fairly laid back, where you'll come in, there's an entry area, and now that the state laws have changed from the medical, you'll actually walk right back to where the product is. If you look underage, we would ask you for your ID, which you will be asked for your ID at one point, just so that we have a birth date. But the products there, they'll be the bud tenders, which is what we refer to as the employees that kind of help you choose what products are going to be best for your situation. It's generally best to have a rough idea of what's been bugging you, be it insomnia, joint pain, those sorts of things. The bud tenders do not make medical recommendations, but there is a plethora of anecdotal evidence on this edible may help with sleep, this product may help with menstrual cramps. You know, there's different things that do different effects. In being forthright and willing to ask those questions really helps a lot, and it's a lot more easygoing than a lot of people feel. And even though a lot of the employees are younger, we're really here to help you, and we really have seen the use and the effectiveness of this plant, and we're really willing to make sure that we go through and get you what you need.
Okay, so I'm from the medical side, so I have prescribed cannabis. I did 6 months at the Swedish Cancer Center in downtown Seattle. And so different organizations are going to have different regulations as to whether or not they'll let a doctor, a nurse practitioner, or a physician assistant prescribe cannabis. Providence does not. They don't allow their providers to do so. It's in their regulations. Swedish does. So as a provider in the cancer center at Swedish, we wrote prescriptions for cannabis for cancer patients. What I'm going to say is that I do feel in my cancer patients that it did provide them benefit, especially for nausea, for appetite, for insomnia. I feel about cannabis is the way I feel about most medications, is that the jury is still out. And the reason the jury is out on cannabis is because it was illegal. And so we don't have any double-blind controlled studies on how well it works. We are in the process of getting double-blind controlled studies in states where we can do them. So there are a lot of anecdotal, as Oscar said, information about how it works, but there's not a lot of hard data. And as a scientist, as a nerd, I deal in hard data. So, so when you go and you talk, and they're wonderful at these shops, when you go and talk, you do say, I have this symptom. I don't know anything about that, but they can help you with which product works best for the symptom. I can't tell you anything about that. But what I can tell you is this: if you do go ahead and do that, make sure to be forthright with your doctor, nurse practitioner, or PA. Because like anything else, when you put something else in your body, it can potentially interact with the medications you are on. And so it's important to tell your pharmacist or your doctor, your nurse practitioner, or PA, because it can change your blood thinner. It can change your heart medicine. It can interact with anything. Just like if you took supplements or anything else, you need to be able to, you need to tell them that so that it's not altering other medications. So that's very important.
Have any questions? One question. So, here? Yeah,
I'm a retired nurse. I drank a baby. Loved it. Anyway, I've dealt with a lot of people who get a prescription pill, then they have trouble with that medication, so then they get something to deal with the side effect, and then on it goes. And is anyone ever allergic to cannabis? You ever have that? Like, can you tell, or are you aware of it?
Yeah, so the lady was asking, like some medications can give you an adverse reaction. She was asking if cannabis can be a source of an allergic reaction. Is that correct?
Right.
Yeah, so I know in my experience, some people can be allergic skin-wise. If you get in contact with the glands, there can be almost like a blistering. And so in those cases, it doesn't seem to be an indication of an allergic inside the body, but just like anything, everybody is so unique. This is not a substance for everybody by any means. And we recommend people start slow just to see, but I have come across very, very few people that have an adverse reaction, but it is possible.
So as a geriatric nurse practitioner, I would tell you this. Our mantra, and I taught at the School of Pharmacology at the School of Medicine in Duluth, is start low and go slow. So start with the very lowest amount and slowly increase it. And yes, I think using anything, you can potentially have an adverse event. If you're inhaling something and you have an underlying lung disease, you could have a asthma attack or allergic reaction, a spasm or whatever, that wheezing, coughing, shortness of breath. But you could have that from smoking a cigarette too. So just keep that in mind. Like he said, if you put anything on your skin, you could have a topical reaction. So, is it possible? Yes. Is it probable? Maybe not. So you have to keep that in mind. So go low, go slow.
Sue, I think you have a question. Sue, have a question?
I have phosphorus. Someone who buys the CBD biscuits for our overactive little Jack Russell, it has made a world of difference in him. He is off steroids, on biscuits, half a biscuit in the morning, half in the afternoon. And it's very good. I'd like to know, how did you get into that? And are you like the only place in town that has been on?
So again, I'm also a bit of a nerd, and this plant is fascinating. There's a lot of chemicals in it, and the cannabidiol, or CBD as it's called, is a non-psychoactive component of the plant that has a lot of really good components in it. It interacts with an endocannabinoid system. There's a phytocannabinoid system that works in the plant that interacts with our natural system, and same with the pets. And it basically just helps fill in the gaps so our inflammation is in homeostasis, our anxiety gets back to homeostasis, and it kind of helps regulate those things. And aging pets need it just like people. And to be frank, it was somewhat of an economic decision, being that people spend a lot of money on their pets, and I wanted to have another profit center for the garden store. And one thing led to another, and we have heard so many just amazing stories with it. It's turned into kind of more of a helpful side of the business. And, you know, it does make money, but it's really cool seeing these pets come out of some situations.
So, you're just noticing you've seen, you've had some older pets. What's helped your older pets?
And again, like with people, you can overdo it, and it may not always be the right answer for every pet, but it has seemed to be helpful.
Is there any dangers you've seen? Any problems with the pets?
Nope, no problems that we've seen.
All right, is there a question back here?
I want to know what is the difference between the medical and the recreational? Why can you buy some things with the medical that you can't on the recreational side?
So they're asking the difference between the medical side and the recreational side. Some of these are just more terms that have kind of been brought in from the past, but there is a dose limit that the medical side can get, mainly on edibles, on a higher amount, and you can also purchase more. I recommend people, if you have an ailment, you can get a medical card. It is beneficial to have because it prevents you from paying tax on your medicine, and you do get access to a little bit higher potency edible, where if you're dealing with transitioning out of opiate pain medication or some of those sorts of things, having a breakthrough pain-killing dosage is beneficial instead of having to eat a bunch of candies to get an amount of medicine.
CPD compared to, when you hear CPD, is that coming from the
CBD?
Right, the THC or the tetrahydrocannabinol. Oh, so Maureen's asking the question between THC and CBD. So they were, and I'm sure Oscar can talk about this too, they were able to separate out the THC and the CBD oil, so they're two different chemicals in the plant. They're actually more than two chemicals in the plant, but these are the major chemicals in the plant. The THC is more associated with the psychoactive part of the plant, where people get the feeling of being hungry, getting high, or relaxed, as the case may be. Relaxation, fatigue, hunger, those kind of things are taking the edge off of anxiety. The other is more in terms of pain relief, and there's research about neuropathic pain, and so they're looking at both sides of the CBD oil versus the THC part. So they're able, the question is how cleanly can we separate them? Everything's in process right now, so I guess we'll find out.
So on the Oregon side, where we don't have as much machinery like they do in Europe and those places to be able to actually pull the components, hemp-derived CBD. So my brother-in-law farm in Hillsboro, and what the Department of Agriculture requires is under 0.1% THC, I believe. Might be slightly higher than that. So you have low THC in the plant, a level of CBD, and then that plant can be processed to have a high CBD, but there still is a negligible amount of THC. But that actually is shown to be a benefit because there is kind of an entourage effect where these two chemicals kind of play off each other in ways that we don't yet understand, because there needs to be more research. It's kind of the chicken and the egg thing with the FDA and the DEA.
The DEA was a lot more friendly prior to this administration. You know, there was talk about legalizing nationally instead of just going state to state. Now, quite frankly, you cannot cross a state border with cannabis on you. If you are pulled over crossing a state border with cannabis on you, it is illegal. And I'm talking crossing from Oregon to Washington. So that is a federal crime. You're not allowed to do that. So if you were to go to the OLCC Oregon website, you read the most frequently asked questions, it will tell you you're not allowed to cross state borders with this on you.
Does that include just the topicals?
It's included everything. So, and this is the reason being is it's not legal federally. We're talking state to state. Now, more states are making it medical and then going to recreational, and pretty soon, hopefully, we'll reach critical mass and it will, you know, move over. But, you know, this is a reality you have to live in. You're going across state lines. The gentleman in the back is wanting to.
Oh, I was wondering if either of you could comment about the other compounds besides the cannabinoids that are in the plant. And that'd be mainly the terpenes and those effects. Those are things like kinine and limonene and some of the other ones that are in there.
They're finding mercury is an incredible pain reliever. So the terpenes, if you're familiar with wine, they have tannins, you know, which is kind of their oils and personality. And cannabis has terpenes, which again, cannabis is very akin to wine in some regards in both sorts of, you know, the tasting and the flavors. But the smells and different things that come from cannabis, a lot of people, you know, often smell the product before they choose. And there's an old mechanism that they believe is in there where the terpenes are an odor, and you can kind of tell in some fashion what may work with your physiology. The subject of terpenes is a whole universe within itself. So to answer though, there's a lot that happens, and the terpenes are seen almost like switches. There's over 400 chemicals in cannabis, and there's such a complex interaction going on. Again, we don't know all the things that are going on, but those terpenes are like switches that turn on different things. You know, there's CBG, there's CBDV, there's all of these different things that affect from, you know, an antipsychotic effect to an anti-inflammatory. And, I have a diagram at our booth that will kind of break down what the chemicals do and what ailments they treat, and it might give you a little bit more information.
So what I'm going to tell you is that right now, because there is no data, there, you know, cannabis can claim to cure anything. So there's no data, okay? So, but I'll tell you what, drug companies come out all the time claiming their brand new drug is going to cure everything too. And I've had a drug rep sit in front of me and claim he's going to cure whatever. So, you know, my answer to everything is skepticism. So I say, you know, come back and talk to me in 5 years or 10 years when all the bugs have been gotten out of your new drug, okay? So my answer to every one of my patients for the last 20 years is there is no magic pill, okay? There's the reality. Americans want to be fixed and fixed now. We want a magic pill, and we somehow think that we are going to get it, and it's not true. So if you're looking for something to magically fix you, it's not going to happen. If you think that's true, meet me after this and I'll sell you a bridge. So there's the answer. My answer to this is that, you know, it's what I used to tell chronic pain patients. There are only two ways to not be in pain. You're unconscious or you're dead. It's about tolerance. It's about being in an acceptable level of discomfort so you can function well in this life, okay? So whether or not this really does, and when we unlock the mystery of this cannabis, it'll be great. We need to know these things. But whether or not it really does or does not do the things it says it does, I don't know. And it may be a fabulous thing. I don't know. What I hope is that it doesn't hurt anybody. And that's always my thing. And you have to take that risk, and you have to look at yourself and ask the risk-benefit of using anything. Whether it's a prescription pill or a non-prescription pill, there's a risk-benefit. Anything you put in your mouth, there's a risk and there's a benefit.
Absolutely. And, I would say that the one aspect with cannabis that's a little bit different than the pharmaceuticals is you do legally in Oregon have the opportunity to grow it from its base seed to fruition and know exactly how it was treated from start to finish. I absolutely agree with the pharmaceuticals and that this isn't a panacea, but I have seen, there's a gentleman that walked into my garden store, Gary Reynolds is also my business partner, our garden store, looking for help. He was from Texas. He was addicted, on morphine, on cancer medication, looking for a way out. Moved from Texas to get access to this medicine. Walked into the garden store. We were growing. We believed in cannabis. It was kind of a garden store with a wink, wink, nod, nod. Town pretty much knew what was going on, but we were doing the best we could with what we had available. So I said, yes, I'll help you. We got him on a whole plant capsule, meaning it was the leaves, the glands, everything ground up and put into capsules. 2 weeks ago, so this is 7 years, mind you, that he was on these capsules in another form called Rick Simpson oil, but he's in permanent remission. He had to argue with the doctor that he had blood cancer because they had so it wasn't the cannabis. Could be a placebo effect. There's no guarantees in this world. But I do feel that smoking does have a benefit, but the whole plant extract and the whole plant capsules for people that are on the last leg, if you've tried everything, if it was a family member, I would try cannabis first before a pharmaceutical, but you're going to do whatever you can. We're not all along for this world. We're born and we die. We do the best we can with the time here. And being vibrant and being alive to pass the wisdom on that you guys have is necessary. I went off track there, but whole plant is what you're looking for. For the health benefits, for vitality, for aging gracefully, whole plant extract or whole plant capsules is what I would recommend.
We have time for maybe one more question. We're not out of time. So, how about
Is that me? I'm interested in the effects of edibles used for insomnia. And, but of course the crazy making thing is insomnia, you're not sleeping, but then you don't want to feel like a zombie the next day. So what is the, for lack of a better word, hangover effect of, that you've seen or not with people who are taking edibles specifically for insomnia problems?
I can't speak to the drug, the cannabis itself, but I can speak to insomnia and aging. First of all, sleep changes with age. The REM sleep changes, the amount of sleep you get changes, sleep architecture changes. And so people are not going to sleep as deeply. You're going to go to bed earlier. You're going to wake up earlier. You're going to be more likely to get up multiple times during the night for physical reasons, to urinate for a lot of different reasons. Anybody in this room? Yeah. So expecting the same kind of sleep as you age is not going to happen. Another problem is a lot of people have extremely poor sleep hygiene. People are turning on devices or reading on devices. They have televisions. There's all sorts of data out there that shows that any type of device lights up the brain prior to sleep, and that we should not have a device on anywhere from 2 hours prior to sleep. So devices are extremely bad, and it creates all sorts of problems. Medications really aren't that great for sleep. It's really about sleep hygiene, but I'll let him talk about what cannabis does for sleep.
So I would say that the deep REM sleep, she mentioned that the way cannabis interacts with sleep is different than how a lot of other things, like a nighttime NyQuil or something might have an effect.
No.
No benefit. Cannabis kind of relaxes your whole system to where you can go to sleep almost more of a, I don't know, I feel like you kind of fall asleep from the inside. You feel like you're drawn to bed. You just kind of get groggy, fall asleep. But I have found that cannabis edibles, they do only work for a certain amount of time. And if you're trying to get, say, a full 8 hours of sleep with an edible, you are more than likely going to be hungover because the amount you need to take to get, say, a full 8 hours is going to carry over. They say the sweet spot for somebody new to cannabis is between 5 to 7.5 milligrams, and it's experimentation. My wife, if she took an indica edible, she would get what's called trapped in her mind, where she is relaxed but her mind is active, where a hybrid strain would relax her mind and her body, and then a sativa strain would have both of them active. So you need to find out what works for your physiology, and I would say this definitely does help with sleep, but like with everything, it's not the fix. This may be a short-term solution, but generally with sleep, there might be something deeper going on.
And I think the big thing to remember with sleep is there's two parts to sleep. There's getting to sleep and staying to sleep. And getting to sleep a lot of times is about when you lie down in bed, and I'm sure other people in this room understand this, and your head won't stop. You're trying to get some peace, and this is when that might help. And all of a sudden, and all you can do is think. Think. You're like, really, now? And so that's the getting to sleep. And then staying asleep is the other piece. And that's when people get up in the middle of the night, go to the bathroom, but when they come to try to go to bed, lay back down, they can't put themselves back to sleep. And so there's those two parts to sleep, and that's a difficult thing too, to find something that does both without just what he said, making you hungover in the morning. Medical science hasn't done well in creating pills to do that either.
Well, we've got a call time, but thank you so much. Okay.
We do have a little bit of information, and I have some first dispensary checklists. So if anybody is curious about what it would take to go to a dispensary but don't want to necessarily go in through the door, I got a little bit of information to kind of wet your whistle.
State of Oregon does have a website that has the most frequent asked questions. The OLCC website does have all the questions, how much you can get, all of those things about not going over state lines and all that kind of stuff too. So.